Hey guys, welcome back to the Dice Dojo Painting and Gaming Studio. Today I wanted to talk to you about who I am, why I'm doing these videos, and kind of what I'm going to do direction-wise going forward. So, I'm a middle-aged nerd at this point. I started playing video game, role-playing games, Nintendo, Super Nintendo era in my childhood. Really enjoyed those types of experiences. Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, things like that. Then a childhood friend introduced me to Tabletop Dungeons and Dragons. At that point, it was Advanced Second Edition. That changed my life. I thought that was the coolest thing. You could be anybody, do anything, go anywhere. Started joining in that group, played with some high school and college-age friends, and then got exposed to Shadowrun, which is a cyberpunk mixed with a little bit of fantasy by FASA Corporation. I think it's in its like 6th edition these days. The game's very different, but still really cool. And played with that group, continued to play with them. Got exposed to Magic the Gathering a few years after it came out. Became an avid player of that off and on. Would love-hate relationship. Would sell it, buy into the game, and sell out, buy in, sell out. And then after playing Advanced 2nd Edition, 3rd Edition Dungeons & Dragons came out along the way. That game was great. There was a lot of like good engine work that was done into it. Kind of changed things, streamlined things, and actually most people I knew actually played with all the rules for once, which was great. That got incorporated into a bunch of video game engines, so it kind of brought things full circle for me. Knights of the Old Republic, Jade Empire, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. A lot of those were loosely based off the 3rd or later 3.5 engine. Neverwinter Nights as well. Those were all great video game experiences. So off and on, I have a tendency to kind of bounce around into card games, into role-playing games, into tabletop games, board games, so on and so forth. As you can see in my video where I walked you through the Dice Dojo, I've got a good gaming area here for tabletop games as well as video games. Also pretty good board game supply and tons of miniatures games. Speaking of miniatures, how I got exposed to miniature wargaming, we used some of those miniatures for Dungeons & Dragons, and so we played a few miniatures games with that, chainmail, things like that. Never really panned out for me. One night after playing Dungeons & Dragons with my local group, one of the players is like, hey, check this out, it's a game I used to play. That's how I saw Warhammer 40k for the first time. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a huge fan of action, specifically combat in Dungeons & Dragons. So to me, it was like, what if combat, but all the time? And that really grabbed me. At the time in my life, I was a poor college student, a father, had one child present, another child on the way. I actually, at this point in my life, I have 4 children, some of which came to us by foster care and adoption. So right around the time before I got into Warhammer 40k, I had multiple kids coming into my life at the same time, and it just financially wasn't an option. So I would sit after weekly RPGs, and I would watch the people who did have stuff for the game play, and I knew it was totally for me. I just couldn't comfortably buy into it at that point. Later on, things got a little bit better for me, and I secured a little bit better of a job, a little better pay. Wife started working more hours, things like that. So I bought into Warhammer 40k. We had in our group kind of this mindset of, well, you're going to be the Space Marine guy, you're the Demon guy, you're the Necron guy, so on and so forth. And somebody else was already the Demon guy, and originally that army appealed to me because I thought, well, even if I don't stick with the game, these will be a bunch of cool models I'll have for my shelf or for Dungeons & Dragons. Since that wasn't an option at the time, thought it wasn't, but, in reality you can. I bought into Chaos Space Marines. I painted mine blue, gave them the Mark of Tzeentch, and really got into the fluff in the background, came up with a full story. After about the 15th time of being asked, like, hey, why do your Ultramarines have spikes? I was like, no, listen, they have a backstory, they did this, and da-da-da, no one cared, and I realized, like, okay, I gotta change this up. Read a little bit more about the existing lore, and instead of writing my own, and got really pulled into the Black Legion, Abaddon the Despoiler, and kind of went that route as the big bad guys. And that's the core, that's my main army. I have multiple armies now. Typically the bad guys kind of appeal to me in role-playing games and in video games, things like that, kind of playing the bad guy role. I work in law enforcement in real life, so I guess kind of following the rules and doing the good guy stuff is how I like to live my life, but when you play games, to me, it's for an escape, and so that escape is to kind of be the bad guy and do the bad guy and be the big nasty. So I enjoy that you have that option. Aside from Chaos, I've become a pretty avid collector, and I have a little bit of several factions for the game. My son also has a fairly large orc army, and really hoping to get him into the game. So my background for gaming is I run local events, nothing huge, small game tournaments. I'm a tournament organizer for most of our miniatures gaming in our central Illinois area, around Matt Tuner Charleston. We're about a hour south of Champaign-Urbana, if you're familiar with that, if you don't know who I am or where we're at. I run the miniatures events there. I'm also the director of our miniature section of our gaming club, so try to organize events and things. So with COVID and the restrictions getting dialed back now for people that are vaccinated and things like that, we're hoping to really start picking up our events again. And one of the things that I'd like to do is share that with the community. Part of what got me into this in my downtime and where I was at, I listened to a lot of podcasts, things like the Independent Characters, who really grabbed me. And my favorite part of that was one of their goals was to make you feel like you're a part of their gaming community. And even though those guys are located out on the West Coast, I really did begin to feel that way, which is just, it's great to expand that and make you feel like it when you don't have the time to play or you don't have other people that can play or you have weird hours. To feel like you're part of a group, which is, obviously part of the appeal of this whole thing. So I want to try and do that with this channel, make people feel like they're involved in things and a part of things. So I wanted to just let everyone know kind of my background, where I came from. Hopefully you got a little in common with me. If you're a Shadowrun fan, comment on that. Let me know. Huge fan of the old Troll Lord Torgo. He's no longer with us, but that was my gamer tag on Xbox, and that's really stuck with me. I don't have any tattoos, but the closest I've ever come to getting was a Shadowrun tattoo, and I don't know, that may still happen someday. But what I want to do is I want to bring the things that I know about and share them with you, build a community, and have you guys share. Here's events. These are things that I learned. For instance, I'm going to be running our Learn to Play Warhammer 40k 9th Edition event locally tomorrow. And I'm hoping to take the things that I see and hear and learn and bring those back. I'll be doing a video next week that's just meant to be a learn to play or relearn to play, as a lot of it us are finding out as people that have come back from old editions are interested in this new edition of the game. Kind of the quick takes and things that'll help you just get ramped up and get you going with the game. I'm also going to be doing some painting tutorial videos. I know there's tons out there, but I think I've got my own kind of take, and maybe I can add some things to it. I'll try and give credit to the artists that I've learned from specific techniques. I've taken a lot of classes and watched a lot of online content. I don't want to try and steal thunder from anyone that I've learned some things from, but I want to try and acknowledge part of the great content that is available out there. People like Vince Ventrilla, Sam Lenz, there's tons of other hobbyists. Colin Ward, Legalized Mischief, I've learned a lot from him, done his Patreon for a long time. But I want to try and take this information, share it, and build. I'm a community builder. I really want to see this community grow and have you feel like you're part of my community and kind of merge that. So I'm hoping some of my friends and locals and things that see this video, as well as new people, will come on board. Comment, tell me what you want to see. If there's games I can cover, if there's things I can teach you about, I'd be happy to do that. And we're currently playing Warhammer 40k. We're ramping back up in 9th edition. Marvel Crisis Protocol, really getting into that game pretty hot and heavy. It's been very popular locally. I'm not personally a huge comic book guy, but I do enjoy the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so I'm really kind of putting that spin on my guys and kind of how I see it. But the gameplay itself is great. There's a lot of great game design elements attached to that game. If you haven't checked it out yet, definitely recommend doing so. I did a quick intro that you can find in my videos for the core box just a few weeks back. It's kind of obviously it's an older release, but it's an updated take on that. Also, Warhammer Underworlds, Shadespire, as a lot of people call it. Fantastic game, great entry point. The characters are usable, from my understanding, for the most part, into Warcry as well as Age of Sigmar. With the Age of Sigmar 3rd edition release coming up, we're going to be doing local events for that. I'm going to be starting a new army myself, and I plan to allow you to kind of follow my hobby progress with that army and see the direction that I go. So I've got painting videos in the works. I've got some battle report plans in the works. I'm also looking to kind of have you follow me as I build through an army and go through an army. I also do some commission painting. I'm going to be following some of that. But if there's something else specific that you've seen done elsewhere that you think would be great, or something that's not being covered by someone else, please let me know what you guys want to see. Comment below. I'm going to be eventually hopefully doing some giveaways and some fun things, but ultimately, I have a job. This isn't what I want to do for a living. This is an avenue for me to continue to grow my gaming community. I teach hobby classes locally. I organize events for miniatures play, whether that's narrative campaigns, tournaments, whatever. So I'm a community builder, and I feel like this is the next natural kind of step and progression for that. So I'm hoping to do that. So if you like the content, please continue to like and subscribe. If you have someone else that you think is in your play area, your group, that you think could benefit from this, or that we could benefit from having them as a member of the community, please send them a video, let them know, share the word, and I'll talk to you later.